Font Size and Style in Docs, Accessibility in Practice, Colorado Department of Labor and Employment. Hello again. I am back on my accessible Google document checklist, and today we're going to talk about accessible font size and type for Google Documents. I have on my screen my inaccessible Google document, and in my previous video we made an accessible title and made sure to identify that this document is in the correct language, it's in English, and we already did that. Next, we're going to make sure that we have the accessible font size and font styles. As I go through my document, I can tell I have a header in my document, and I also have narrative text, meaning the main text in my document that folks are going to read. Typically for digital text, we want to ensure that text is at least 12 pixels. That doesn't necessarily mean 12-point font, but that does mean we use size 11 for some of those larger fonts like Arial, and maybe size 12 for those smaller fonts like Calibri or Trebuchet. It's important for us to remember that we also have smaller font sizes we use for things like headers and footers. Now, 12 pixels typically indicates about 9.5 to 10-point font minimum for the smallest font on your page. So in my headers, I want to use at least size 9.5 or 10. I usually go about 10 just to have an even number. So I'm going to look at my header here, and it looks like next to my logo, my header has my division name and address and website, and it looks like it has Arial size 8. Well, I know that it has an accessible font style because Arial is sans serif. And we have known from our previous email videos that sans serif fonts are the best font, the most accessible fonts to use, and Arial is sans serif. So that's good. But the font size is too small. It's only a size 8. So I'm going to increase that up to a size 10. There we go. So now I know that my header font is now accessible. Now I'm going to go look at the rest of my font in my narrative. So now I have my first heading, Progress Report for the Unit, and it looks like it's in Times New Roman, which is not a sans serif font. That is a serif font. So I'm going to choose some of my serif options. I have Arial, Calibri, Trebuchet, or Roboto. I'm going to go ahead and choose Trebuchet because Trebuchet is the font that is used the most for my organization. And the progress report for the unit now is in my accessible font, and I know it's also an accessible size because it's 24, which is much greater than size 11 or 12. So that's wonderful. Now I go down to the second heading called Important Workplace Poster, and I notice this is in a very curly Q size type of font called Lobster, and I know just by looking at it that that is very serif-y, right? It has lots of curls and links to different letters in the font, so I am going to need to change that too. And I'm going to go with Trebuchet again. And I look at the font size, and again, it's size 14, so it's big enough. I don't have to worry about making it bigger. On my next line, oh good, I have Arial, which is the sans serif font, so we're good there, and it's a size 12, so I don't need to change it. As I move through my document, I notice I have some images, and here's that lobster. Again, I'm going to change that to my Trebuchet. And then it looks like I have another font called Laura. Since I'm not so familiar with that font, I'm going to go with a font that I know is accessible, called Arial. Looks like I have another image, and now I have some more font down below. Status of assignments is an Arial size 12, and so is the rest of the font. It looks like I have Arial 11. So I mentioned before that Arial is a larger size font, and it can be as small as 11 for our main narrative text. Oh, again, I see another heading where I have used Lobster, so I'm going to go ahead and change that to Trebuchet again. And I notice again I have Arial size 11 for the rest of my font. No problem. That's just fine. All right, I've reached the end of my document. So I've changed all of my font to an accessible size and an accessible font style. Well done. We are ready to move on to the next step. Find more videos on our YouTube channel at CDLE_DLSS.